Welcome. Great to see you coming in again. We're 5 minutes away from beginning, so bear with us. I see Kim Kruger there. Hello, good to see you. Nicole, welcome back. Nicole Sophie. Right on, Nicole. Good to see you. Zane Saunders. Great to see you, Zane. See you on television, see you here, see you everywhere. How are you doing, Buckskin?
Hi, Craigie Green, all the way in Canberra. Oh, there's Delissa. Hi, Delissa. Delissa Pigram.
Oh, Dahlia Pigram. Good to see you, love. I'll get you up the room way. Jason Passfield, welcome back. Great to see your face. Well, not your face, but your name. I know there's my face. My face is my name. We've got about 25 people in the room at the moment. We're still a few minutes away from starting, so we're just waiting for everyone to come in. Welcome to the chat. Panelists with you. Obviously, you know who they are. You can read on the internet thing. So they're looking at all the chat we're going through as well. We're just another minute or so away from beginning. 28 people in the room. So normally they all just flood in at 2 o'clock. So bear with us, we run a little bit late. Emily Wells, good to see you. How's Brisbane treating you? I'm assuming you're in Brisbane. Mia Hacker, good to see you here. Thank you for coming in. Oh, a little hiatus in the music. We're listening to it. That was great, but we were listening just then. They'll maybe come back. Leanne, it's good to see you again.
See you too, Wesley. How's your week been?
Oh, look, I've been growing my beard this week. That's been my almost my sole focus.
Wonderful. I think it's very distinguished.
I think it's the grey that really gets it going. Alinka Tyndale, good to see you here. And Alec O'Halloran, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, it's one of those things you think, while you're in isolation, you might as well, give yourself a task. This is jigsaws and facial hair. That's my task for this time. We've got about just under 40 people in the room at the moment, and we're getting some more. Ellen, good to see you. Ellen Van Nieuwen. Great to have you here. Georgia, good to see you, Georgia, all the way from Narva, as well as every other place, but don't know where you are. Joanne Drosens, good to see you. Thank you for popping in. We've got about 43 people in the room, 44, 45, all they're popping in now. We just turned into 2 o'clock now, just after 2, so we might give people just a couple more minutes to pop on in before we start. Mick Grucci saying hello to you, Nardi. He's saying it's good to hear and listen and learn, which is nice. Because who knew someone that old could even learn something new, which is great. Good on you, Mick Grucci. Yeah, too cheeky. I know. Lewis Cooper Robinson, thank you. Good to see you here.
Yeah, good on you. Yeah, old but smart.
Peter Lenoy, good to see you again. Thank you for coming back in. It's great to see so many return visitors, if you like, and using that kind of tourism term. It's interesting that just before we start, Leanne, you're thinking, remembering that next week there was meant to be all this Cook anniversary stuff coming up on the 29th April, where? Gone. Where? Where's he gone? Done. Finished.
Yeah.
Missed his boat.
But apparently, aren't they going to be marking it still?
Yeah, but, I thought that's what all those cruise liners were. Because didn't they bring disease as well? Nah, don't. Shut up, Wesley. Pippa Dixon, good to see you from Asia Link. Good to have you here, doing a little bit of cheeky cook commentary as we're filling in the time, waiting to start. Yes, thanks, Ella. Yes, a little bit cheeky, but it's interesting. Someone said to me once about a couple of weeks ago, going, "Oh, what does this mean about the cook thing? And does this mean the spirits are saying no, we won't be able to have it? You will not have it. We will sit you in your home, and you will have to think about this." But yeah, you think, oh well, all of that stuff. Go. We've got about 65 people in the room now. We might just give them 2 more minutes to join us, because I know everyone's enjoying our witty banter there, Leanne.
Oh, yes.
In a bar.
Friday, aren't we?
It is a Friday. People have been saying it's fantastic to have this kind of Friday afternoon, just gather together. It's, people having their cup of tea or something maybe a little bit stronger in a glass.
Yeah.
Sit back and listen and watch and take in some information. Norman Armour, all the way from Vancouver, I think he would be in at the moment, hanging out at the what is it? The Dude Chili, I think it was, Park. I saw on his Facebook. It was very weird. Michael West, great to see you here. Coming back online. All right, we have about 71 people, and it's just 2:04. What do you think, Leanne?
One more minute and we'll get going. Hey?
One more minute.
One more minute.
Sarah Bell, great to have you. Thanks for joining us. Simon Carmichael, great to have you here. Valerie Boll, thanks for joining us. It's great to have this sense of community and people coming together. Lila Dash, great to see you. Thank you for coming and joining us. So many people. Lachlan Gould. Yes, I think it's Gould. Good to see you. So please excuse my pronunciations of names. Kayla Tyson is saying that the QPAC mob are there. That's great. Good to have you here.
Oh, good old QPAC mob. Hello, QPAC.
Those who don't know, that's the Queensland Performing Arts Centre there in Brisbane. That's QPAC. There's a bunch of mob there, because all the good ones come from Queensland, don't they? Isn't that how it works? No, maybe not.
Don't start, Wesley.
Yes, we've got a good mix around. Oh, Lachlan Magoo. Oh, g'day. How are you? Yes, I know your name. Yes, some people agreeing with me there, Leanne, that yes, the best ones come from Queensland. But then, as I've been told, yeah, especially that Stratty mob, yes, well, that's proper good country there. It's not a diplomatic incident there. So. All right, we've got about 78 people in the room.
Shall we get started?
We should get started.
Yeah.
So a big welcome and thank you for joining. I'm Wesley Enoch, and with my beautiful, lovely, marvellous, intelligent co-host, Leanne Buckskin. We've both got connections with the Australia Council. I'm the chair of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, or the First Nations Strategy Panel, and Leanne Buckskin is the deputy chair of the Australia Council. It's so great that you could join us again for this 6th round table.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're well in your respective countries. Thank you, Wesley, for the introduction. So this week being our 6th roundtable is, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the roundtables, and I'm enjoying all of the different ideas and what people are all coming up with across the country, and it's incredibly encouraging. It's a tough time for everybody.
Agreed. It's such a kind of, it's one of those times where we need to come together, and it's great. There's like 85, 86 of us now in the room. Hannah Donnelly, great to see you coming in. This sense of so many of us coming together to share ideas, to connect with each other, but also to get a sense of what we're going to do and how we're getting through this. There are very particular issues that we're dealing with as First Nations Australians, that a lot of the rest of the nation doesn't. And I'm reminded by the opportunity, that moment when the Prime Minister said to us, those people over 70 shouldn't be going out and doing things, and Aboriginal people over 50. And you go, that's right. The health difference is the gap is so huge that people over 50 in our communities need to be extra careful, like if you were a white person and over 70. So it's very, very good to be reminded of what we need to do and how we look after each other. Marinda Donnelly kind of saying hello, and Nancy Bamager also saying there. Donna Woods, great to have you back. So this great kind of opportunity. So we'd like to welcome all of you to this 6th First Nations Roundtable series. Today, our focus is on advocating the arts and how we're dealing with the impact of COVID-19 and what strategies are in place to support the sector. Leanne, I might give you over to just acknowledge country and talk about country for us as well.
Thanks, Wesley. As is a part of our protocol, that I'd like to acknowledge all of the respective countries that we meet on and sit on today. Obviously, there's, many clan groups out there, but I sit on Kaurna land on the Adelaide Plains, and I'd like to not only acknowledge the Kaurna community elders, both past and present, but also our ancestors and all of your elders, both past and present, and all of the respective ancestors that sit around us. I'd like to move forward now with the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent. If we move to the next slide, please, Michelle. Just a few things, just to remind everyone, especially if this is your first time, that these roundtables really have the key focus to connect us, to share ideas, to bring new ideas to the fore as well, and to create these networks or strengthen the networks that we already have, and to help navigate this very, very trying time. As we gather together now, we kind of, you in Whadjuk country might actually have a suggestion of something that might be very useful for other parts of the country as well, when we think about the network as we stretch across the nation. So feel free to share ideas as we go along. Just to the next slide, thanks, Michelle. Just to go through a little bit of the housekeeping, little kind of things that we need to do. We'll go through this agenda now, then just to look at, we will have a housekeeping moment where I'll just explain a little bit about the site and how you can navigate the Q&A and the chat rooms and things. We'll have a little chat about the key issues and questions that came from last week's webinar. And then we'll look at the grants update, things that are kind of happening in the grants world, especially in the Australia Council. And then we've got 3 guest speakers. We've got Janina Harding, who's at the moment the Artistic Director of the Cairns Indigenous Art Fair. We have Jimblah, who's a musician and an advocate, especially in the youth music area, working out of Carclew at the moment. And Nardi Simpson, who's a writer, singer, musician, published author, kind of, what else? Multidisciplinary artist. Anyway, she's everything. So we'll hear from those 3 guest speakers. They'll speak for about 10 minutes each. And please, send in some questions or things as we go through. We'll have a bit of a pulse check, so you can give us a sense of how you're going. You can share with the group a little bit about how you're feeling, what you're doing to get through things at the moment. And then what's next, a little bit of how we're working collectively to go forward, and looking at some of the resources and what the next roundtable will be. So lots of really detailed things to get through. And if we go to the next slide, I'll go through this housekeeping slide. So just to run through how the page works here, you've obviously see this PowerPoint display behind you. If you hover down at the bottom of the screen, you'll then see a couple of buttons. There's a Q&A button. You can double click that, put it up there. You can put a couple of questions in there and we'll be looking at it and get it coming back to you to monitor it. And there's also a chat box, little chat window there that you can double click on that. It'll open up and you'll be able to then talk to all the panelists and attendees, or you can actually choose to talk to one particular panelist or one particular attendee if you know someone and you go, oh, I've got something specific to add to this conversation, or I know them, I met them at a conference, let's connect with them, let's exchange phone numbers, meet up afterwards, have a virtual kind of cup of tea together to give support, any of that kind of stuff. We've got about 95 attendees in the room at the moment, 96, it just popped up then. So there's a lot of us to come to. Ellen saying she can't believe it's number 6. You're right. It's been a month and a half. So think of it this way. I don't know, time and space is collapsing, but we've been in lockdown for almost, 3-4 weeks? Is this our 4th week now? I can't tell.
I think it is our 4th week, Wesley. Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. So there's lots of things to do there. So just also to say at the bottom there, you can also see closed captioning if you need to, if for whatever reason the sound's bad or your hearing's not as good in this environment, you can look at the closed captioning and it'll be there for you as well. So we have, about 105 of us all together now. I might hand over to you, Leanne, to talk a little bit about what came out of last week's.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful one.
Yeah, it was a really good session last week, the roundtable. We had 3 speakers. We had Dr. Jared Thomas. He works for the South Australian Museum. So he was talking about his collaborative publication with Paddy Mills, the basketballer, Torres Strait Islander fella. And also, those who don't know Jared, he's also an author. And he'd written a book which he'd received his Churchill Fellowship, and which became his play Flash Red Car. He addressed the impact of disease on First Nations people and their enduring resilience. Jared also noted that there was a growing urgency to be sharing objects, increasing access to communities to allow engagement with their ancestors' objects. Again, that's just referring to his work at the museum. As we know, the South Australian Museum holds the largest collection of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artefacts in the world, and so Jared's is working as a curator there at the moment. We then had Diat Alfrink from the Torres Strait, and basically highlighted to us all the challenges that are being faced. She resides on Thursday Island, so they're really focusing on developing their language programs. They're doing grant writing workshops and filmmaking workshops. So they're really utilising the time up there that we have at the moment for development. And I think that's a theme, Wesley, that keeps running through, is that, you know, with everything slowing down the way it has, that it gives up people opportunity to do some research and some creative thinking around practice. Also that we had Yvette Holt, who noted that our peak body for First Nations riders are also in negotiations to introduce the, what's the AP Australian? Do you know what that means, Wesley, on the notes? But it's the Australian Poetry First Nations Anthology Journal. So there is going to be a call out for submissions over the next few months for our First Nations writers to contribute to that. Alison Murphy-Oates also noted that Muggleland still have a few spots in their Muggle Live program. So get onto that if you're looking for work, artists who are out there, and they can deliver movement workshops, cultural art workshops, or readings of new writing for performance. So just go to the Muggleland website. It's on your screen now, down the bottom, and Alison would love to talk to you about that. We also had some, again, just reiterating some of the grant updates with the Australia Council. We have a number of initiatives that we're looking at. So one of the, I think generally, and the key thing we need to understand is that we have relaxed the requirements around audience KPIs. Obviously, we have no audience to perform to. Also bringing payments forward, delaying or simplifying our any of the reporting requirements. Also extensions on timelines and varying the purposes and outcomes of funding. But there is a response package, and the response package, as you can see, will enable, you know, things like essential bills and wages and things like that to support artists around digital initiatives as well. So we do have, and if we go to slide 3, Michelle, the 2020 Resilient Fund. So it comes in 3 streams: survive, adapt and create. So as you can see there, looking at loss of wages or cancellations due to activities. If you want to explore those further, there is, please call the grants officers. They're there. They want to talk to you. They want to help you as much as they can for you to be successful in receiving one of these grants. So there is no closing dates for those, and but cannot reiterate enough, just talk to the grants officers and they can absolutely support you to do the best in that application.
And hearing lots of stories, Leanne, there about people who are able to get in there, talk to the grants officers, shift and change some of the priorities or the timeline, so that there's lots of shifts happening, and that the Australia Council is very open to negotiating what's the right way forward for you, your project, your company, etc. I just need to make a little correction, Denise. I'm sorry about this. What happened was I said that you could talk to other people, other attendees, and apparently that's only me. There's only me and you, Leanne. We can talk to other people.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I'm looking forward to that. I might be able to do that. So sorry, Denise. No, you can't. If you've got your eye on someone in the room and you want to have a good old go at them and have a good old chat, I'm sorry that this format isn't able to do that. I'm very sorry about that. It's something because we're panelists, we've got access to talk to people individually. So sorry about that. Good to see Fiona Duncan here. We also see Eva all the way from Yuriyakan. Great to see and hear you're in the room again. We've got about 114 people here, which is fantastic again, as we kind of connecting through with people all around the country to talk about some First Nations issues and resilience. So yes, people getting out there, that resilience fund, it's up to $10,000, I think, for individuals and $20,000 for organisations. So get together a project, get in there, and also to make sure that First Nations people are doing this conversation we had last week, years, weeks, months, days, that last week we talked about that individual First Nations artists are finding it easier because you go, oh, well, I'm going to write a song, I'm going to make music, I'm going to make a piece of art. But it's more, some of the more collaborative forms like dancers and actors are finding it more difficult to engage in some of these grants activities. So, make a group together, talk to people, make sure those applications are coming through so that we can help support you along the way. All right, well, with that in mind, oh yes, thanks Denise. Yes, Denise wants to say hi to Nardi Simpson. She wants to be very specific. She's sending her love to the Simpson family. So we'll hear from Nardi in a second, and so you might know how to do that. So just for those people who've joined us in the last little 5 minutes or so, just remember to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or the chat button and open up and get a real sense of conversation. If you want to share an idea or a reflection or something that's right for you and that's working for you, you want to share it with the group, whack it in the chat room or ask a question so we can share ideas. All of this material, even the stuff Leanne just talked about, will be on the Australia Council website, let's say early next week, let's say, so that you can go back and listen to these conversations. You can go back over the last 5 of them and listen to other conversations along the way, see how that we've got much better at it as well. See, you can actually mark the growth of my beard if you like. It's totally up to you. But there's lots of things going on. So there's lots of information that you can go to the Australia Council website and look at that. So let's move on to our guest panelists. We have 3, as I said before, who they're all dealing with the COVID-19 situation in different ways, and they're finding ways of supporting themselves all the way through. So as we said, Janina Harding from CAIF, Jimblah will talk, and then Nardi Simpson in that order. So what we might do is, if there are no questions, I'm not seeing anything, we might hand over to the lovely Janina Harding all the way in Cairns, where it's windy apparently, Janina. Is that right?
Exactly right, yes. But lovely. And can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very
well.
well.
Great. No, it's beautiful, I'm living in paradise up here.
Well, you're in Queensland, that must be paradise. Left yourself open for that one. I'll leave you to it.
Thanks, Leanne and Wesley. I just wanted to, and great, thanks Lydia as well for, the invitation to come and join this webinar. I really want to just talk about CIAF and the challenges that we're facing with COVID-19. You know, it's certainly it's thrown a spanner in the works. We're just on the verge of promoting our program, which we usually do, just before COVID-19 sort of struck upon us. And then we had to pull back. What are we going to do now? Because we need to put this show on. You know, the show must go on, basically, because we're all about supporting our artists. So even though we couldn't, you know, roll out a program in the physical sense, it's actually created a perfect opportunity to investigate this, you know, the new media. And so we're looking at developing a digital platform this year for CIAF 2020. And investigating this when we've sort of been talking to funding bodies and all our stakeholders, the artists themselves, some of the art centres, and just individual artists, you know, they've all been excited about this digital program, digital platform. So, but the way I see it, we can do it in a way that we're all in lockdown, obviously. So this is where the challenge comes, and this is where we're really hoping that artists can sort of open up their communities to us, and that's by way of presenting art and performance, whatever they really like within their communities, by people within their communities that have, you know, that are media savvy. So this whole next couple of months is all about this investigation of finding out who these kind of people are and how we get this platform set up. We're at the moment, you know, going through the tender process. We've actually selected a couple of companies that will build a virtual gallery where we'll roll out the art fair. So the art fair will be on a virtual gallery platform. There's also another exhibition. Wesley, we were talking about Cook earlier. Well, this year CIAF will be presenting an exhibition called Undercurrents, which is all based on Queensland artists' response to Cook and what he means to them. So there'll be 2 virtual galleries. There's also a couple of galleries that might be part of CIAF. You know, you've got the Cairns Art Gallery here in Cairns that'll have another virtual gallery, and perhaps the north side, which used to be formerly called Kick Arts. They're looking at having a virtual gallery too. So there'll be a number of virtual galleries that people have access to. And it'll be, you know, I don't know if people have been on those kind of sites before, but you can actually, you know, there's videos involved where artists can talk, you know, you can get close-ups of the artwork and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like you're actually there. We're going to be shooting it with a 3D camera at the Tanks Art Centre. So this is how it's all going to be sort of put together. Now what we're looking for communities to do is you know, for those media people that are media savvy in communities, and we're also looking at actually training people up as well and providing camera equipment, because you know that people don't have access to that kind of stuff. And so there'll be little video packages going out to communities that are interested, and people in those communities that are interested in the Cape and the Torres Strait or wherever they may come from. So they can film some dancing, whatever's happening, talk to elders, talk to artists. If there's anything going on, you know, maybe because a lot of artists are going, a lot of people in families and communities especially are going, you're hearing it on social media that they're going bush. So there's all that kind of stuff that'll be part of how we roll this out. So there's, let me have a look. We're also looking at having an art market as well. That'll be sort of on the side, and people will have access to e-commerce experts, so they can be trained on that. So we're sort of following all that up. We'll just be we'll host it basically, their businesses on our new portal that'll be set up. So when you eventually when this is all set up, we're looking at launching it mid-August. You'll be able to go to the usual CIAF website, and there'll be another portal that you'll be able to go through. That'll be just CIAF 2020, which will be the whole digital platform that'll be rolling out. We're looking at having fashion again. So there's 2 curators, Bernie Singleton and Simone Arnold will be curating the fashion once again. You know, it's all under the restrictions of COVID-19. So, you know, 2 people at a time and all that kind of, you know, in the open, so that's not inside. We're looking at all that kind of stuff. But they've managed to get designers involved already that are really keen. So I think we've got about 7 designers, including a couple of art centres involved in that, who will be doing 6 looks. So it'll pretty much roll out in a kind of pre-recorded video, but we'll also sort of have hosts and live links, and we're hoping there'll be a bit of live stream there to, you know, just to make it a bit more exciting. So pretty much and you know, there's lots of, you know, we have live conversations, we have the symposium, so that'll be done through, you know, webinars. That's how we sort of are going to be pushing that out. But I guess what I really wanted to talk to people today was more about what's going on with our communities up there, and, you know, what we're hearing. You know, a lot of artists are working at home because of the restrictions. Some of the art centres, I know one in particular in Mornington, they've been able to, the art centre manager there has been able to drop off supplies, some art supplies to the artists, actually drop them off at their door so they can keep working. You know, you understand that some of the people's homes are overcrowded, you know, because everyone's got to stay at home. But excuse me, what I see happening is that, you know, artists, whether they've got the supplies or not, you know, I've got that luxury of having supplies dropped at your doorstep. If they haven't got them, they've been going out, or they've just been looking around the house and recycling things. They've been, you know, repurposing objects and making art out of that. Excuse me. The other thing too is the dynamic has changed in the household, you know, where artists might be just used for babysitting, that kind of thing. They become the more important people in the household, because the younger people are actually listening to them, you know. So this is a kind of chance where the kids can, you know, we go back to old ways where young people are actually listening to our elders, and maybe this is an opportunity if they are stuck at home, maybe the young people can start picking up some art and helping, you know, picking up that paintbrush or whatever supplies they've got, or even that, you know, repurposing objects around the house. You know, the artists, those elder artists, you know, can teach those younger ones how to make art, which would be wonderful. I'd love to have some of those, you know, post COVID-19. I'd like to see some of these young ones that have sort of been at home with these elders and even with their parents, whether that inspires them to become our new emerging artists. Because this seems to be, you know, it's hard to get young people in art centres, you know, in the Cape and the Torres Strait. But anyway, maybe this might, you know, spur them on. So artists working in the community, which I think is the next slide. This is, yeah, I want to sort of talk about this because some communities are totally, especially in the Torres Strait, they're totally free of COVID-19. I know the Cape's free of it at this minute, but I know in the Torres Strait it is, you know, there has many cases reported at all. So I think there might be my understanding is it's a bit more relaxed, especially in the outer islands, where you can, you know, walk on the beach obviously and go fishing and do what you want to do. So this is when I think the family becomes that sort of important element. So that I can see our artists, even though they're doing it hard, this is when CIAF comes into it, because we still need to have that black economy operating. So if we can support each other through this, through our families, and through our communities, I think that, you know, people might be able to find opportunities with CIAF this year. You know, because coming together and sharing and caring is what we're all about, you know. And this is this whole thing that I'm trying to sort of say here today on this webinar, is that we hear that we're all going back to our old ways, you know, because there's no because we just have to, basically. We're either stuck at home and we have to put up with each other as a family in our houses, or if we're living in a community, what are we going to do? You know, there's no other things going on. We don't have those interruptions and distractions that happens in the day-to-day lives in the community. You know, you've got to go to this appointment and that appointment, you've got to see this one and that one. There's nothing like that going on. So what do people do? So this is a time for going bush or doing a bit of art and doing a bit of culture. So practicing culture, which I think is the next slide. Who's doing the slides? Sorry. Yeah, there we go. It's something that artists have been, you know, doing out there, and just, you know, families are doing when they go bush. I heard Alvarina Johnson on Daniel Browning's show. He did a little bit of a segment, and they were going bush. There's lots of families in Yarrabah that have gone bush, because what's the point hanging around, you know, the community there, living on store-bought food, when you can actually go out and find your own, you know, tucker. You can, you know, you've got the sea, beautiful, you know, barrier reef right at your doorstep. Why would you not make the most of it during this period? And just to get away as well, when you haven't got those distractions and appointments, and, you know, the kids aren't at school, that kind of thing. So that's what's been going on out there, and it gives a chance for families to get together and sit down, and, you know, they can go, you know, pick grass, do some weaving, go and collect ochre if that's what they do. And like this picture here that is in the slide, that was taken when I went to Bentinck Island, and that's Duncan Ruffsey and his grandson just making spears over the fire. So this is the kind of stuff people have been doing out there in the Cape. One of the other things too that I see going through this period, because, you know, if you've ever been a Kaif, you know there's a lot of cultural dancing, which is pretty much the highlight that people, you know, apart from the art fair, obviously, but people really like to see the cultural dancing. So now is the opportunity for people to go out, and whether it's in your front yard, your backyard, if you're stuck in a community or at home, or you've got that luxury of going out bush, you know, it can be a form of healing. It's a form of exercise, and it's also, I just think it centres us, you know, to our cultural core. So these are the kind of things that I think are the positive things coming out of COVID-19 for our people. I don't know if it's happening all over Queensland, but it's certainly happening in the Cape and the Torres Strait, where people are actually, you know, making the most of it, and trying to be positive. And things are really going back to, you know, our traditional way, our old ways.
It's fantastic.
So what we're trying to do is, what CIVE is trying to do is all about the sustainability of Queensland art and culture section. And I think this is all about our survival. Thanks, Wes.
Yeah, that's great. Sorry to interrupt there, love. There are a few questions that were coming through there around the virtual gallery. Have you selected the person yet? Can you talk to who they are and
It's a company that was it's based here in Cairns. They also have another office in Singapore. They actually, if anyone can have a look at, you can have a look at their work. It's on the Cairns Art Gallery website. They used them last year.
What's the name of the company?
Oh, I can't remember now off the top of my head.
Well, that's right. If you remember,
yeah.
In a second, you can come back and we can.
But if you want to see, if people want to see their work, go to the Cairns Art Gallery website. And the last year's exhibition at Kayak was actually shot. They shot that with their 3D camera.
Great.
And you can go and press on a work and, you know, have a good look at it and learn about the artist.
And I'm assuming that the virtual gallery will be sales led as well. You'll be able to buy work.
Yeah, there'll be a whole e-commerce at the back end of that. Yeah.
Which would be a fascinating thing. Who do you think the audience is for Kayak in this way then? I mean, obviously it's
the whole world, Wesley.
Yeah, the whole world. do you imagine are you going to do kind of international
Definitely.
and stuff. Yeah.
We've got a media company, a local media company that'll be taking that on. We've also got a fabulous PR person that's been with us the whole time, who has international links as well. We've got the NGV have also said they can help us out with our marketing, which would be fabulous because apparently their sales are just going through the roof since COVID-19. They're selling $1 million a month in their shop alone.
Too much.
Yes, yeah.
We've got now, just in terms of copyright issues, I remember one of the conversations that came up, and the questions coming through the chat now about copyright, about people putting images up online, let's say in your virtual gallery, and people taking those images. How are you protecting that, or how do you even talk to people about copyright?
Yeah, well, you won't be able to just sort of take them off, and they'll come out as low res, obviously. I mean, they'll look fantastic in the thing, but you won't be able to copy them. They'll just be like blotches of, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a technical person, but you know what I mean. You won't be able to have them like super duper good. They'll come out crappy basically if you wanted to copy them.
And similarly, then with like if people are filming, there's cultural dances happening on your portal.
Yeah.
People then recording it or taking it. I mean,
you wouldn't be able to record it. Yeah.
I mean, it's a big question, and maybe something that we should come back to. The whole idea about digital sovereignty. I know Rex talked about it earlier, and how we kind of look at protecting copyright of performers, of artists, as we become more and more, if you like, virtual. People then being able to take things in that virtual world. We have Trisha J saying, is the company, this is for you, Janina, is it thinkvirtualreality.com.au?
Oh, let me find it. I've got my computer here.
That's why it was just a suggestion. And I think too that maybe this is a job that we can ask the Australia Council to look into, how they register the virtual galleries that are around the country. If you have a virtual gallery out there, if you know or have access to one, it might be interesting to see if we can put them all together and get one of those kind of things, a central register, a central place that if you wanted to look at these virtual galleries around the country, you can go there. Marilyn Miller saying, yes, copyright for performance is one of the hardest areas to move in this particular area, and that we might need to look at that as well. And Denise saying that it's great to have so many examples of positive things that are coming from the COVID-19 scenario that we're in, all these lockdowns, and people moving more to cultural behaviours of hunting and food gathering that is, you know, from our strong traditions, not just the store-bought food, that it's all there as well. Kylie Belling saying congratulations to Janina and Kayaf that it lives.
Thanks, Kylie.
Driving.
Oh, here we go, Wes. It's called Think VR.
Think VR.
VR.
There we go. Think VR. Which might be that that might be that website then, thinkvirtualreality.com.au. It might be Think VR is the company, and that's their website. So check it out then. It's in the links that are there for us as well. Think VR. Yes, VR. Yeah, proper way. Taran saying proper way equals hunting and fishing. Yep, let's do it. Perfect. This idea of digital sovereignty, I think we keep skirting around this issue. We know we need it for sales. We know we need it to make sure our community can be looked after. But how can we do that? Alec is saying the question of copyright on online images needs to be answered in more detail, please. And yes, I think that's absolutely the case, Alec. And what we might do is I might, if not next week, then the week after, we might actually get some research done and to help look at what some of that is and whether there's any guidelines or thoughtfulness around this copyright online of images that we can even put up on the Australia Council website. So we'll check out that.
Yeah. Just let people know that this is all new to us too. So we're going, every day is a different thing we're learning, you know, as we go kind of thing. But we're relying on these companies that have done this kind of thing before to, you know, ensure that this kind of thing isn't, you know, copyright will be fine.
Well, in fact, just to interrupt there, Shani Sutton is just saying, she says here, to protect paintings online, there is a way to put a clear layer on the image.
There you go.
So that if it's downloaded, a blank page is downloaded instead. It's called shrink wrapping.
There you go. Well, I'm sure this VR company's going to, you know, will know all that stuff.
Yes.
We're going to be having Terry Janke talk as well on the
I
roundtable.
heard that. When's
Yeah.
she coming on? In a couple of weeks or something? Do you know?
I guess.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
Very
all right.
rare of time. So I want to hand over to Leanne for you to introduce Jimblah for us.
Jimblah. Okay. Okay, we'll get the... So Jimblah I've had the pleasure of working with for many years, and has been fantastic to watch Jimblah grow in his success as an artist. Also that he's a great advocate for music, and in particular engagement of young people. So Jimblah is a hip hop artist from Darwin, and he's based in Adelaide. He works for Carclew Youth Arts within the industry development team, and in particular looking at First Nations music. So I'm going to hand it straight over to Jimblah. Welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I guess I'll just talk about my own personal experience and what I'm doing, how I'm responding, and all of that. Like Leanne said, I had the privilege of having access to spaces like Kururu Youth Arts and Carclew Youth Arts. When I was coming up as a young fella, we got to take part in like workshops and stuff, which was really the kind of pivotal thing that changed the trajectory of where I was going with my artistic kind of journey, especially where hip hop is concerned. I'll never forget a workshop that we did with a brother named Morganix, and the first thing he said when he led the workshop was, rap is something you do, hip hop is something you live. And as that quote is originally from KRS-One, but as a young brother just stepping into the space of rap music, I didn't know about its culture, and I didn't know about its humble beginnings and the political side of things. So when he started talking about that, I really pricked up, and my ears pricked up, and I was like, whoa, okay, no wonder I love this thing so much. And so it was from there that I just started really digging deeper into everything, and started going to workshops all the time. Through that, inadvertently, the tutors got me to start coming on board as a mentor. Through that, I discovered how amazing it is to work with my First Nations community, in particular our youth. So yeah, especially where music is concerned, especially where hip hop is concerned as well, as it's such a big movement with our young mob. So yeah, going on from there, if we could have the next slide. This time last year, my best friend Goji and we created our first record with a new group called Homeward Bound. And it was basically looking at the state of the world and so much chaos and kind of in our world, and kind of looking at it in a way that was being conscious that, you know, how do we respond to that? Is it adding more chaos into an already chaotic space? Or is it trying to respond with more peace and kind of more calm and all of that? And the main intent behind Whatever You Do, Don't Panic, which was the name of the record, the main intent there was the more you are able to be gentle on yourself and learn to love yourself unconditionally, the more you can extend that same sentiment and energy to the rest of your humanity and the rest of our global community, and vice versa, the more you learn how to extend an unconditional love to the rest of humanity in a global sense, the more you begin to learn how to love yourself unconditionally. So that was the kind of the energy around, and the intent and the concept around the album. yeah, just with the title, Whatever You Do, Don't Panic. Because at the time, I spent 3 years out of the music game because I was dealing with crazy anxiety and depression, which was actually fueled a lot by social media. So when all of this stuff popped off and things started going down, I'm sure like myself and a whole bunch of other fam, I started freaking out and I started panicking. And I was always checking the news feed every 5 minutes, constantly looking at what everyone else was doing on Facebook and Instagram, like what is our response collectively, like, you know, all of this. And I spent like 3 or 4 days kind of in that state, heightened stress and, you know, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, okay, hold up, this is not a vibe, it's not healthy. And so it was about taking a big step back from it and going, just taking a moment and you know, and trying to get some calm and some clarity, especially some clarity, which kind of brings me to my next slide, which was kind of realizing the fact that we've been here before. As First Peoples of this country, we know what it means to navigate crisis. We're extremely resilient people, you know, and so in that sense, I started getting really empowered by that because it is very empowering. Although, you know, at the same time, we've got to be mindful how our initial crisis that we're navigating is going to compound upon the COVID-19 crisis and double up in a sense. Still, this is familiar territory for us. So we've actually got insight here that is so beneficial in such an amazing way, if we can tap into that. So I'll take you back to towards the end of 2019, we released a song called Black Lives Matters, which was in response to what happened in Jimblah. And you got lines in there like, we sacrifice another black voice. Why? Just to prove another white point. Right. I will stand for the justice. I tell you what's the problem. This is not a problem. This is catastrophic. So we already know what it means to have to confront catastrophic conditions, you know, and circumstances. And I feel if we can, you know, for myself, it was really about going, okay, hold up. I've already got so many tools and processes that I've built up over just navigating what it means to be a First Nations brother in Australia. You know, so going on from there, it was all about, okay, what's the level up? What's the evolution here? How do I operate, you know, and utilize my voice, my privileges, my space, my energy, my time, my resources? How do I utilize all of that in the most optimal way, not just for myself, but also my community. And going from there was, you know, obviously everything there's a big shift that's happening digitally, you know. And for me as a First Nations musician, my whole distribution is by way of social media and streaming services like Spotify, YouTube, and stuff like this. But if I take you back to my 3 years that I had to take off to deal with my depression and anxiety and what that was about, and social media being such a big thing in that, you know, at a time like this, if we can just move on to the next slide, please. At a time like this, I'm very conscious that the current social media model and platforms that we have access to, and for the most part, the majority of the platforms that our mob are using, a lot of them are very exploitive of our humanity, and not necessarily, for myself, I feel a lot of us are going on to connect with our humanity and connect with other fam. And obviously, I have no doubt in my mind how powerful social media is and can be. At the same time, we've got to be conscious of, at such a time, when mental health and emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, all of this is already, being in a crazy place and a very vulnerable place. The current social media models that we have access to aren't necessarily the safest space for us to be in my mind. So going from there, it's all about, okay, well, when we're talking about sovereignty, when we're talking about self-governance, when we're talking about self-autonomy, self-sustaining practices, in my mind and my awareness, it's all about, okay, so what does that look like in a digital space, of course? And then at the same time, I'm trying to drive conversations around a First Nations industry for First Nations musicians, that our ideals and our values are paramount in the way that operates, because in the mainstream industry of the music industry in Australia, it's just like we're so out of alignment just because of who we are as First Nations people and the values and ideals that we have, especially where music and healing is concerned, how problematic the mainstream industry is in that sense. So it's like, okay, what would our space look like, And then so evolving that and then putting that over to your social media spaces and then going, well, what would an ethical social media platform look like that isn't about addiction to the platform, that isn't about feeding this narcissism and this ego, and that isn't about likes and numbers and all of these things and all of the things like that, isn't about an infinite feed that is just ruining our attention spans and ability to focus and all of this, but and is also taking into account what our values and ideals are as First Nations people. So that's the kind of thing that I've been really trying to sit with and be guided towards moving forward. And when we talk about evolution, because, I want to empower myself and my family around me to, firstly, we've got streaming models like Spotify who are already, they're not distributing royalties fairly, so it's things like that. In my mind, it's like, well, let's create our own streaming platform that we can, empower ourselves more so with. So I'll just take you to the last slide. In partnership, so the evolution for what I'm envisioning is about, we already had a program that we're about to roll out in partnership with Carclew and Music Development Office here in South Australia, which I also work for. And that program is called Black Empire. But really what we're envisioning now with it is a media company, so a social media company with a focus on ethical content, or moving in a much more ethical and moral manner when it comes to utilizing these spaces, your YouTubes, Facebook, Instagram, but then also trying to be visionary in a sense of going, while we're utilizing these platforms, let's also look forward and think about what does our own space and our sovereignty look like in a digital sense, especially where social media is concerned. Because no doubt, 100% that it's could be the most powerful thing ever, but in the hands of these big tech giants, they're not necessarily being guided by the best of our humanity, but more around exploiting it, so things like that. So what we're doing, one of the first things we did with our artists was empower them by getting them access to equipment. A lot of us already have privileges where we've got laptops and we're able to just operate straight and dive deep into this digital realm A lot of mob don't, you know, so access to technology is a big thing. We got access, we bought some laptops and stuff. And we're looking at getting out on country just to spend some time away, and just build with each other and figure out a collective vision of, you know, how can we best support our artists? Well, firstly, content is extremely hard to create and time consuming. So let's pay them first and foremost, you know. It's hard to monetize once the content's up there, but if we got access to resources where we can pay our artists to begin with for the beautiful work that they're doing, let's do that first and foremost. And then looking at models going from there, where we're looking at the idea of having social media managers, so our artists actually don't have to be on social media when they're in their creation processes. And that way they can just be purely connected to their inspiration, their soul, and their heart. And it's not getting blurry, and there's a lot more, you know, clarity afforded to them, and just safety, you know, like that's with the discussions that we're trying to drive. The number one thing that we came to was safe spaces for us, you know, like the mainstream music industry is just a horribly unsafe place to be in, with regardless of your background or ethnicity. At the same time, when you compound the crisis that First Nations people are confronted by and navigating with, you know, that even leaves us into a more vulnerable place within that. So safety is really what we're, you know, especially where our art and story and music and vision and healing is concerned. You know, we need these safe spaces. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
You're getting lots of chat in the chat box of agreement, and everyone saying, yes, that's absolutely the case. And saying too that, you know, some people back on Facebook, some people staying off Facebook. It's helped their mental health to stay away. That's what Ben Grath is saying. There's social media managers being a great thing to have as well.
Totally. Yeah. Well, that's what we're looking at. We've got access to people who are actually, they're much more tuned in how to stay safe while online and operate in a safer manner. So, you know, but a lot of our fam aren't, you know, and it's like we're dealing with artists who are like, I really hate social media. I don't want to be anywhere near it. I don't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
So, you know, so things like that, where it's like, hold up, there's an evolution here. What's the level up? How do we build, you know?
Agreed. Ellen Van Neven saying here, she's saying, what strategies do you put in place there, Jimblah, in terms of managing your social media and your mental health, and how does it happen to make sure that it's not that exploitative side that you touched on, that it's something that you're in charge of, rather than it's in charge of you?
I get off. That's how I deal with it. Honestly, I get off and I have huge breaks.
Yeah.
And I don't scroll. I find like it's crazy because some of these things are so seemingly innocent. Just the fact of sitting there and scrolling forever for an hour. I'm conscious now of how much that ruins my focus and ability to and when we're talking about dopamine and you know, and like what. For me as an artist, I have to spend a long times in the studio building, and that requires a lot of patience. The more I'm online, the harder it is to be patient and to focus and to push through the hard times. And but looking at other ways where we can, you know, there's an argument where we need to inform a lot of mob safer practices around social media use. I'm a bit, you know, I think with the current models that are so built around exploiting our psychology and stuff like this, I'm not sure about that argument, just in the sense of they can just be so dangerous to our mental and spiritual well-being.
Lots of feedback coming through here saying, you know, to use the unfollow and block features. You can also put people, like, you know, if you've got a cousin who's just they're on a bit of a rant at the moment, you can just rest them for a few days as well. There's lots of structures, especially on Facebook, you can look at. I mean, I do one thing. I just do the birthdays. I get online and I just do everyone's birthday that wants to be given a birthday message within my friends thing. And that's trying to stay positive about stuff as well. And I have blackfella only days that I only like things that are given to me from the blackfellas in my feed. So I jump everyone else and I just go to other blackfellas and just go, yep, I like that. Because it also gives signals to the algorithm of who you like and what you want to be connected to. So
I think it's a crazy, there's so many different complexities at play.
Yeah.
It's such a big discussion that we need to start having in a big way. But I think the more that I spend time off, and then when I do go back, I'm just a lot more conscious about when the negative stuff starts kicking in, or and when I need to be like, hold up, take a step back, or maneuver however. But yeah.
Yes, and John Harding saying he has white fella only days. Well, that's good. There's lots of things there. Lots of really beautiful feedback there, Jimblah, about that approach, and that people looking after their mental health. That often we're talking about get online, get digital, get connected, because it's important for all of the economic reasons we're talking about. But for you to also put that out there about looking after your mental health, and that the social media is not controlling you. You are in charge of looking after how it works for you, and to look after your mental health. And there lots of feedback there in the chat room. I've got one little question though, and I know it's a big question, and hopefully only you can answer it in just a couple of minutes so we can get on to Nardi. But I know you're working with a lot of young people. I mean, how are they responding, and how are they thinking about this particular situation we're in now?
Yeah, the fam I'm in contact with, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of mob also wanting to do the right thing and do, good by the fam that they're, a lot of our young mob living with their grandparents and stuff like this, so straight away that, and when you've got things like the school, there's us young mob is still being urged to go to school and stuff like that. Those things are like within our First Peoples community. It's things like that we're not, I imagine a lot of the wider mainstream community might not be aware of those facts. But confusion, just wanting to do the right thing. A lot of mob getting out on country, just saying, no, I need to get back home and get out of the city, which is what I'm really yearning for as well. We're looking at leaving next week, so that'll be dope. But yeah, I mean, from the mob that I'm working with, they're all want to be responsible, and they're not trying to be reckless. And I think when things first started happening, there was a lot of kind of blasé, and then more started kicking in. More fam were like, okay, this is actually very serious. We got to pay attention. We got to operate accordingly. So
yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that. That's really important. We're just aware of time, so we'll move on now. And we've got our final of the three speakers, Nardi Simpson, who is self-described multidisciplinary artist. But I've seen you're a published author now. So your book got published. You're a musician, singer, songwriter. You do everything, a playwright. It's fantastic to see all of that stuff going. So you've got the next 10 minutes. You've got the floor, Nardi, to talk to the gathering.
Thank you very much, and yama to everyone. I just want to say how strong and proud I feel knowing that even in really difficult times as artists, we're connected stronger than ever. And that's something that I love about us as artists, but us as blackfellas. It's such a deadly thing to have. I just want to thank you for including me in this today. When COVID hit, it's sort of same for everyone. The rug was pulled out from under me, and everything creative really that I did stopped. And then I went through a little kind of I went through a little period of thinking, well, I'm nothing now. I'm nothing without people, because without people I probably wouldn't practice, because I actually practice for the exchange. Anyway, then I got over myself, and I think now, a few weeks down the track, I'm sort of starting to think that this is a really important time for me to evaluate and to think about how I'm going to keep going. Not what I'm physically going to do and what I need to do to keep a career going, but how do I want to walk after this sort of period of, what is it, being stationary or something. So Michelle, if we can just go to the that thing, yeah. I've only got 2 of these. So for me, I always have this sort of internal, I don't know what it is, discussion, issues, problems, sometimes with 2 very differing things that sort of seem like they're in conflict with each other. And it's a way I might talk about it is, you know, opposites coming together. You know, I'm a Yuwalare woman living in Gadigal, freshwater person in saltwater country. I live a city life and have country roots. All these big things and little things that sometimes are in conflict with each other. And maybe all this COVID stuff is making you think about being healthy or about being sick, you know, these opposite things fighting each other. But as an artist, I've kind of, I've been thinking a lot about big picture business and little picture. So big picture is about how my conceptual space as an artist and me as an active agent in an environment that is bigger than me. This is a picture of Cooks River, Cooks, there he is again, down at Earlwood. And everybody, it's an underrated little river in town, which me and my sisters go down to a lot. And now it is teeming with people. Like there are more people there than Pitt Street in peak hour, you know, a year ago. That I find it really interesting now that people are, as humans, being drawn to this natural resource, this wanting to be part of an environment where usually all these fellows would live their life and not really even take any notice of this place. And watching people go back to natural things. As a black fellow, I think, yeah, now you want to, now you're interested. But I think that there's this human thing in Jimblah talks so beautifully about healing, the healing properties of art and practice, and that this fella here too, in the city, these are very rare places, and they're kind of almost little pockets in Sydney where you can find places where the environment is still the boss, and the concrete and the bitumen and all that business hasn't taken over, and people are flocking there. And my hope is that people, as I watch people, you know, run and jog and cycle down there, my hope is that they're not just being there, that they're engaging with it. And this makes me think about the environment that I'm in, my outside life compared to my inside life. My outside creative life is me understanding what I do and what I can be for others. My inside life is about me playing keyboards and writing music and, whacking clapsticks with xylophone hammers and things like that. So it's this sort of big versus little thing that is sometimes difficult to balance, but is really important, not just to be in, but to think about. So just, might have been a couple of months before all this business started, we had a First Nations Indigenous Musicians Roundtable in at Australia Council, and mob from all over Australia. Jimblah was there, lots of different musicians from different, we didn't like the word genres, but different practices, made different sounds, coming together to talk about how can we strengthen our musical family. And I sort of linked that to the environment of me being an artist. And in this space, what I really love doing is thinking about how can I use my talents, things that I'm good at and things that I see to help uplift other musicians. I really enjoy thinking about how to help people that haven't even been born yet move into a space that they can be even more deadly than the last person. I love the thought of that. But if we go to the next slide, please, Michelle. When I got one foot in that world, what I've realised over this time is that it's really important not to think, that I am going to have the answers for that. I think it's really important in my inside life and as a practitioner of art for me. I've got to remember, even though I really want us as a First Nations music making mob to be as fabulous as I know everybody else is, you got to not step on people's toes. You've got to leave space for people. If you're passionate about helping people, the way for me, and this is, I've got to remind myself, because if someone gives me a task, I run straight for it and I don't look. I've got to remember, it's not for you to do it so other people can then follow. It's for you to make the space for people to do it their own way. And so then this is the opposite, the other sort of the second duality of what I've been thinking about over this time, the small stuff about how I express my creativity that is very, self-indulgent. But, I have confidence and faith that I've been brought up in the right way to be respectful and generous and kind, that, that means that it's not just about me. So by me deciding how I'm going to do my practice, that is just as great as, organising a First Nations Indigenous music conference. You know what I mean? So there's these big ways and little ways that can work hand in hand and aren't in conflict with each other. And I think in particular this time for me has been about me saying, work out how you're going to do this, not what you're going to do. That's been really important for me, how I want to make work, how me making work in my way can add to the larger voice of other artists making their work in their way. And then all together, it's this beautiful, wonderful, diverse melting pot of deadliness. You don't have to carry the weight of everyone. This is what I tell myself, because I really want what's best for my brothers and sisters, my creative brothers and sisters. But actually what you have to do is do what you do in your way and link up with other people doing that in their way, which is this beautiful complementary thing, that's where the power lies, not in loud voices, always. And of course, sometimes we need that, those trailblazers to make that. But I think musically and creatively, and my sister Lucy is a really great proponent of this. She's very shy. And she's a beautiful artist. And she's often put in these situations where she's got to talk about what she does and she hates it. But everybody wants to hear because of the things that she creates. But she says small things are beautiful. And we know Blackfellow way, sometimes the most important things are whispered. So quiet things are really important too. So that's really these two opposite things, big business, small business, and it's like a river, how I navigate those two things. I've been thinking about a lot. And sort of some days it's time to talk up big and go into the Australia Council and have these wonderful ideas. And other times it's important for me to work all day on a verse with just a beautiful melody. And those two things at different times will be the shout that you need. So really this time here, been thinking about how I'm going to move forward, how I'm going to do my business, and how small things can complement, and how just as well as big things. That's really what I've been thinking about, Wes.
Oh, it's beautiful, love. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, in some respects, all three of you speakers are talking in a similar way about often it's the things you've neglected, or the little things, or the things you've forgotten to look at, that there's a great personal strength in finding all that stuff. So I could listen to all three of you all day, really. I mean, just talking about your process too. Many people here just saying, just lovely to hear about an artist's process, about how the small things become big as well. There's kind of almost in what they call fractal, the fractal learning that society, that the environment says in the little things, the big things already exist, because the big things are made up of the little things. So to get the little things right, kind of get all that together as well. So a beautiful thing about, ideas of looking after yourself, and through looking after yourself, you can look after others. There's a selflessness in also finding that self-love, that self-care that looks into the world around us as well. Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing, Nardi. I mean, not many questions coming through, but just lots of sense of just how beautiful people have felt what you've said today, Nardi. Just lovely to hear from the music makers, people talking about, allowing thinking spaces and processes, and that there's fundamental philosophical statements being shared here today, which is wonderful, wonderful stuff to get a sense of as well. Don't you feel, Leanne? Don't you feel like...
Absolutely. And I think that the image here that Nardi's got, this last screen, just all of these variety of music sticks, clap sticks, just, I don't know, for me it sort of conjures up a sense of, as a big island as we are with all of our different community groups, it's really interesting that we share these instruments in this way, isn't it? It's from all over this country. It's I think it's really beautiful, and I love that statement, I, me and mine, Nardi.
Yeah. And wonderful. And you talked a little bit, Nardi, about this the music roundtable, First Nations Music Roundtable, and you got a sense of that kind of, sometimes there's big things that need to be achieved as well.
There's I think there was a mixture of the time being almost overdue to have these discussions, and people really ready to make something happen. That over that day too, there were really beautiful, minute things, and as well as these really large scale kind of dreams for the future. And I reckon it's a blackfella thing, Wes. We're good at that because we're constantly sort of code switching or whatever it is, hopping, thinking whitefella way, blackfella way, and this thing about industry and well-being that Jimblah was talking about. We're navigating those things every day. So when you get a mob together that are bound by the beauty of sound or whatever, you're going to have this huge scope of things to think about and to do. So look out, Osco, here we come.
Yeah. I mean, I think even Janina saying too that this whole idea of going virtual, going digital, is amazing kind of experience, which is a representation of a very analog experience, a very kind of connected to country, dancing together, creating together, making art, and that turning virtual. In here, there's kind of sense of dualities that go on. That, I like this idea that we're the longest continuous living culture on Earth, and yet for most Australians, they think we're a young country. There's this kind of interesting dualities that live in our country now, and we have to align them along the way. Beautiful conversation. I'm just aware of time. We've only got about another 10 minutes before we wrap up here. So, I mean, Leanne, what are some of your kind of things that you've seen out of these three speakers as well?
Look, I think that there is, I thought Janina's talk around what is happening with CIAF is really interesting. I'm really interested in the whole transference of a festival like that online, how it works. But one of the comments that I put up in the chat box was, wouldn't it be fascinating for us to hold some sort of meeting post-COVID, and see what some of these outcomes are? You know, what was some of this, and I'm sure that CIAF will be very successful online, but, you know, what were some of the challenges? What was the successes in this space? Yeah. What's the new learnings that we have? Can we put our countrymen on the screen like this?
Yeah.
You know,
I know even people talking about, well, we should try to continue this ongoing.
Absolutely,
well.
yeah. Absolutely. So analytically, I think there is something that I'm very interested in with CIAF, and even the sense of, you know, that whole live streaming and hosting and the process that you'll undertake to do that. And someone else was talking about processes, Jimblah. You know, the process of making music is paying people through that process. It's very hard to, you know, gets once the track's made. You know, I thought that was a very, very interesting comment, because sometimes we think that the royalties will come and that's where you're going to make your money, but that's not necessarily always the case. So I really like the sense of repurposing objects too, and people thinking of different creative ways of practicing art, not necessarily waiting for, you know, the paintbrushes to arrive, but really being resourceful around them during this time is really fantastic. I really love the sense of care that the three speakers gave. Nardi, thank you, Jimblah, and also Janina. Yeah. You know, I think that the whole thing for you, Janina, in terms of CIAF is working through a new way of presenting. So that's interesting. Jimblah, you know, your honesty around depression and anxiety, and, you know, after, you know, having a conversation with you yesterday about that, thank you for that. That was a really brave thing to do. And I think that we all sort of hide behind these screens, you know, freaked out a little bit, or, you know, we see bullying online or whatever it is, but just, it can be just so overwhelming. And I just really value what you said. Thank you very much.
Well, we might move on to the next slide then. Thanks, Michelle. Where we're just talking, this is our pulse check. How are you feeling out there, everyone? Are you connecting with each other? Is there touch in your life of some way? I used to say, you know, is there love in your life? And people say, what does that mean? I go, well, now I'm saying, is there touch in your life? Are there your family members? Are you able to, if you're living close to them, can you give them touch? Can you look after each other? Can you kind of, you know, hold yourself, hold your body in a way that makes sure that you're feeling good about your body? Denise saying she's very touched by this, which is great. And getting better and better each week, Nadine McDonald says, which is great. Elaine saying she's got 2 teenagers in her house at the moment. And so there's sunbuns. I don't know what that means. I think
teenage boys love their mummies.
They do. It's great to have family around. And I love this idea, I think Janina was saying too, how we are strengthening culture in our younger generations because they have to be in the house with you, you know. There's a really great opportunity there. We might move to the next slide. Thanks, Michelle. So there's John Hunting, you have a baby turning 1 tomorrow. Oh, fantastic. And Black Dance has run over 100 consultations since Corona started and 3 regular sector Zooms every week. So they're zoomed out. Everyone's zoomed out a bit, aren't they? But it's great. We're getting so good at all this stuff. So what's next? How do we work collectively? I'd like to say too, like to put into this world that I've been approached by a philanthropist who says they're very aware that the art sector is suffering a lot at the moment, and then that we're maybe the hardest hit. And they were even saying First Nations arts must be even harder hit. And what can they do in terms of helping develop some kind of plan to the future? So we might have a little chat to the Australia Council and say, let's get a group of us together and get a kind of short, medium and long-term kind of planning for recovery. What does that look like? What does it look like for the arts? well, First Nations arts in particular as we go through. But what can we do to look after each other? I like this idea of, yes, we need to plan the recovery packages. That's what Ben Gratz is saying. Especially, I'm very aware too that our federal arts minister hasn't come to the party yet. We haven't seen much from him. Hopefully that will change soon, but lots of state people are getting through there. Oh, there we go. Thank you. John Harding saying he's the CEO of the Victoria's only philanthropic First Nations charity. That's great. So, let's have a chat then about what can we do to look at this sense of recovery then. And people talking about the year of Indigenous tourism. Is that this year? Is that 2020, is it? Oh, I've missed that one. Goodness, I've missed all of 2020. And how do we value arts in our health? That's a good idea, Glenn, as well. Lots of fantastic ideas of how we work together. And I think also some of those resources, like is there a register of First Nations virtual galleries or online activities that we can keep building on as well if you've got them out there. So lots of things of how we work together. And please, can you look after each other out there in the world? How do you reach out to each other, support each other? And sometimes it's those little quiet things, those little powerful quiet things that Nardi was referring to, that there might be just a voice that you've not heard from for a little while. Just reach out to them and connect, either through social media or if they've maybe connected off social media, write them a letter, send them a letter. Why not? It's time to kind of send them a little piece of art of some sort. We might go to the next slide, thanks. We're just talking about some of the resources that we've got in front of us. We've just got another 2 minutes to finish up. A lot of these resources are on the Australia Council website, and they're there to have a look at, especially for what the Australia Council is offering in terms of, if you also need in-language support, you can kind of check it out there. There's some resources that you can get hold of. Remember that Resilience Fund and talk to people about things that might need to change. Especially if you've got a grant at the moment, what might need to change as well. There's also, I've got to run out of time, but I want to talk a little bit about, Bettina Timon's just come up now talking about the Indigenous Arts Program for Queensland artists there. And also we've got an email from Lajamanu talking about some of the great experiences that are happening there as they're looking after community. We might even see if we can put this up on the Australia Council website. We're going to run out of time.
Look at Wesley too. I just wanted to add, while we're talking about resources, that the Sydney Myer Foundation's got $1,000 grant assistance for covering essential services for artists and art workers. So that applies to food, rent, phone bills, internet access, and the closing date for that, if you go to the Sydney Myer website, the closing date I think is the 4th of May, Monday the 4th of May. So if you're looking for anything like any relief like that, certainly go to the Sydney Myer Fund and you'll see more information there.
Next slide, thanks, Michelle. Just talking about the all the different things that we've got coming up. So the next forum, May the 1st of May. We'll have Wakun Wannabe, who's a visual artist and cultural practitioner, Simpson Mansell, who's a dancer, choreographer, and John Harvey, a film maker and theatre maker. And they'll be talking next week on the forum. We're going to take a lot of feedback from what you've got here. Remember, get onto the Australia Council website, have a look around. There's so much to do, isn't there, Leanne? There's so much information.
Yeah. Absolutely, and please go back, revisit some of those roundtables in the past. This is our 6th, so there's plenty of information out there. And always, we're a phone call away. Please, that's what we do. We'll talk to you about what you require.
So big thanks to Nardi, Jimblah, and Janina. Thank you so much for sharing with the whole group there. Thank you. There was over 100 of us kind of here gathered to listen and to share our ideas. And we'll see you again next week for another First Nations Roundtable talking about how we're getting through COVID-19. Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks, Wesley. It's always a pleasure to host with you.
We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, team.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye,
everyone.